Right then guys, how's it going and welcome back to a new video. So the Premier League is officially over. It was the longest season we've ever had, almost a full calendar year. It was a very strange season with everything that's gone on with the break in the middle. And I thought a few days after the season ending, it was time to come on and do a bit of a review on Newcastle United's 2019-2020 season. So I guess to jump straight into it, the main question is, were Newcastle successful this season? And I want you guys to let me know down below, and along with it, put a rating out of 10 as well. So, as I say, for me, it's a frustrating one to answer. And I think the reason it's frustrating is because I guess my answer would be yes, we have been successful. But the reason it's frustrating is because the reason we've been successful is because we've stayed in the Premier League. You know, you want to push on and do better, but in reality, if someone had offered me at the start of the season safety, Premier League, and quarter-final of the FA Cup, potential for a semi-final at Wembley, stay in the Prem, decent cup run, you know, I would have taken it. Which is why I say successful. In terms of a rating, I think I give it 6, 5, 6. You know, it's just average. It's basically the rating a player gets for turning up on the day. You know, it wasn't a 7, it wasn't an 8. We didn't do anything special. We did what it said on the tin. We stayed in the Premier League with the addition of a little bit of a cup run. So, as I say, let me know what you think. Were we successful? What was your rating out of 10? If we take a look back at some of the fixtures and results, I mean, it was almost a full year ago when we lost against Arsenal first game of the season. Then we lost against Norwich. And at this point, if someone had said, shake my hand and you can have Premier League safety and quarter-final of the FA Cup, I mean, I would have taken the deal. And that's again what I talk about, were we successful? I mean, I can remember when the season started up, Steve Bruce was in, we'll talk about him in a moment, but it wasn't a good start, and that's what I mean. If I was going to take it then, I kind of have to agree with it now. And I mean, after those two games, we then went and beat Spurs. We had a few more dodgy results, including the 5-0 loss to Leicester, and again, if someone had offered me that same deal, I would have ripped their whole arm off at that point because it was not looking good. And then we came back and beat Man U 1-0. Matty Longstaff goal. I think that's probably one of the major highlights of the season for me. Following that, we had a little decent spell, beating West Ham, beating Bournemouth. I mean, we lost to Villa, but then drew with Man City 2-2. I mean, it's a very Newcastle season. Just when you think we're not going to do something, we just happen to turn up on the day and do it. Again, we had a decent run in to Christmas. Again, beating Sheffield United, beating Southampton. We didn't have a great Christmas period, losing to Man U, Everton, Leicester. But then coming out of that, we started to pick up that bit of form, drawing against Wolves, beating Chelsea, the draw against Everton. And it actually felt like we were kind of starting to get into our own a little bit. Beat Southampton, and that's when we had the break. And I'm thinking, let's hope we can kickstart this and basically get the job done, stay in the Prem, let's try and grab top 10, what can we do? And in fairness to the lads, they did it. Beat Sheffield United 3-0, drew against Villa, beat Bournemouth 4-1. Again, that's probably one of the best games I've seen us play. I mean, yes, the goal against Man U was fantastic. The 1-0 against Chelsea, Hayden last-minute goal. But the Bournemouth game, we looked phenomenal. Following that, we drew with West Ham. And I'll just stop talking about the season there, I think. Because basically, once we secured safety with the points total, that's when we stopped playing. We lost 4 of our last 5 games. Fair enough, we did play Man City, Tottenham and Liverpool. So those are 3 tough games for the last 5. We drew against Brighton. And I mean, neither team wanted to play in that game. Brighton needed a point to stay in the Prem officially. And I think we were happy to just sit around and let them have it. So I think as well, when you kind of crumble at the end of the season the way we did, and because it's been so long since we played some of the matches, it's quite tough to look on it now and think, you know what, we did have decent spells through the season when it was so long ago and when we didn't finish strong. So yeah, the best way to sum it up, as I say, is very Newcastle United. Just when you think it's all doom and gloom, 5-0 loss to Leicester, we'll beat Man U 1-0. And it was pretty much like that most of the season. I mentioned Steve Bruce, and we've got to talk about how he did this season. As I say, we stayed in the Premier League. And again, it's not easy to kind of fully critique Steve Bruce and the players, because we all know at the end of the day we need that change from the upstairs, the change in ownership. We need more backing. We need to give Steve Bruce more help. You know, bringing in 3 or 4 loan deals and expecting that to be enough to progress from the previous season is always going to be very tough. So as I say, he wasn't the man that I necessarily wanted in the job. It didn't strike me with huge optimism when he became the manager, but at the same time, I wanted to give him the chance like everyone else. And he's done all right. You know, as I say, I gave the season a 6 out of 10. I think the one thing that has been frustrating for me, especially coming into the end of the season, was the talk on and again, is it even Steve Bruce's fault, or is it just all of the other media outlets basically continuously comparing? And I don't even want to talk about it because I feel like it's been so overdone and dragged out, comparing Steve Bruce's job this year with Rafa Benitez's job last year. And effectively the media telling us that we should be happy with Steve Bruce, and why don't the fans support him like they do Rafa? I mean, I think they almost created this themselves. I mean, for me, the first thing Rafa did was drop into the Championship to try and get us back to the Premier League. So for me, I mean, he'd already won the hearts of the fans before he even started, because he went down with us when he tried to save us. He couldn't do it, and at that point he could have just walked away and gone, you know what, I'm not being part of this. He went down to the Championship, brought us back up. You know, that's the kind of thing that made us fans of him. Steve Bruce comes in, and again, it was the constant talk of, can he beat last year's record? And even the way he was talking was, you know, I hope the fans can accept me, and I hope I can replicate what's being done here, and, you know, just own it. You know, just say, I want to do better, I want to push on. And, you know, we came 13th again, and we got 1 less point than last season. You know, so did he do a good job to keep us in the Premier League? Yes. I think it was more the way that I want him to believe as well. You know, I want him to speak with more ambition than just, I'm doing what I can. We've got a lot of injuries, and we do have a lot of injuries, so I will give him that. I think it was just the overall, I kind of want some fight and some ambition from him, rather than just saying, oh, well, I'm hoping to do what was last year, and then we didn't do it anyway. So let me know what you think of Steve Bruce down below. As I say, I've got nothing against the guy. He kept us in the Premier League. He's trying to manage with one hand tied behind his back because he's not getting the full support. We did have a lot of injuries. So with all that and all, and as I say, we stayed in the Prem, I think it was just the general media creating an argument for no reason. And then also, I feel like when he was talking, it was always, oh, I hope the fans are going to be happy, and, you know, just own it and just try and do what you can, and let's talk about pushing forward rather than I'm hoping to match last year. Yeah, it's a funny one. Let me know what you think down below. I mentioned some of the loan deals, so we'll have a quick talk about them. I mean, my favourite loan deal for the season, and it feels so long ago since we last saw him because it got cut short from injury, was Jetro Williams. Remember him? It was a long time ago since he played. He was quality. I mean, defensively, could have maybe used a bit of work, but even playing as a left winger, he looked great. Some of the runs he made, the goal he scored against Liverpool, I would have loved to have seen him played the full season. I mean, at the time, I was calling out to get him signed up permanently. But after everything that's gone on and everything that's going on off the pitch, I don't know what's going to happen with that. But he was great. Bentaleb, when he first came in, I thought he looked alright. End of the season, not so much. And I mean, there is talk of potentially bringing him in on a permanent transfer, and they reckon his wages are around 80 grand a week, which would put him as our joint highest earner. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen, if we're being honest, because I'm not overly keen. We had Danny Rose, who he had good games and he had bad games. I was hoping for a bit more from Danny Rose. I think just the name Danny Rose, if you think of him at England and Spurs, you think of a good player. We didn't quite see that here at Newcastle. As I say, he had good games, but he also had poor ones, just inconsistency. But the thing is, if you asked me, starting next season, would you rather Paul Dummett or Danny Rose at left back? I think I'd pick Paul Dummett. I know Danny Rose can have the potential for creating some extra movement going forward, but with Paul Dummett, you know he can defend, he's reliable, and I think I'd take him. But at the same time, we need the cover at left back. As I mentioned, Williams left, Rose came in. So yeah, maybe it's not a bad thing to bring him on. And then finally, we've got Lazaro. We didn't see a whole lot of Lazaro. And when he did come on, I thought he looked alright. When he played against Bournemouth, I thought he looked really good. He got a goal. But then again, we were winning that game, and I think everyone looked good. For whatever reason, Brucey didn't seem to rate him because he didn't get a lot of game time. From what I saw, I thought he looked decent. So we'll have to see if anything materialises with any of those players. I'm not going to review every player because I do plan on doing a video like that this weekend, so be sure to look out for that. But I am going to quickly touch on the players who we brought in this season, starting off with the main man, Saint Max. I mean, he has been fantastic for us this season. He can play the pass, you can take it around a player, you can make the run, you can create the goals, you can score the goals. He was the player who, when he picked up the ball, got you off your seat. You know, he's an exciting player to watch, whether he's running in on goal or even running into the opposition half, which we don't do enough. He was exciting to watch, and he could well be the biggest positive for me this season. Not only for what we've seen him do this season, but what can he do next season? And as much as we have players who may not be amazing, when you've got players like Saint Max, and if you can add to that team and you can build around a player like that, you have some hope for what we can do next season and going forward, you know? The thing is, and I'm hoping it happens soon, like everyone else, if we do not get a takeover in soon, I bet you now there's a lot of teams that are going to be interested in this guy. I think, or I'm pretty confident he will be with us next season, because I think it will be too soon for him to move on. But, you know, looking into the season after, if he continues his great form, if we don't get a takeover, I think a lot of teams will be interested. So I'm hoping he's going to stay here and continue to do that, especially next season and moving on. We also brought in Joe Linton. I mentioned him already this video. I mean, again, let's judge him after season 2. You know, it's tough. He's a young lad. He didn't speak the language when he got here. The Premier League is not an easy league to join, and he's got this huge price tag on his head. You know, people are expecting him to walk in and score the goals. You know, and as fans of a team, you know, when you do spend money, you want to see some result from it. And when you don't, you're thinking, well, we've spent all that. Maybe we could have done something else with it. So it's tough. I'm hoping that he's got season 1 under his belt and he can come back and do better next year. I mean, I think he played every single game. I think he was the only player. Was it him and Dubravka? Possibly. I think he may be the only player who played every game this season, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. So fingers crossed for him. We also brought in Andy Carroll, who unfortunately wasn't able to score a goal, but got 8 assists. I mean, considering we brought him in for free, He's on a pay-to-play contract. I know some people are saying, why have we given him an extension? I get it. But, you know, he's on a pay-to-play anyway. And if he's getting 8 assists next season as well, I think I'd probably take it, you know. And I reckon he'd be a good guy to have in the changing room as well. He's a Geordie. He knows what it means to play for Newcastle. I think he'll have a good voice in the changing room. And finally, we also have Kraft. He didn't start the season too great, but I think finished it very strong. Got played out of position, all sorts by the end, and I thought he looked decent. So again, didn't start great, but finished well, and hopefully he can do well next season as well. And one player I'll mention who we didn't bring in this season, but I'll mention him because he won Player of the Season for us this season. I mean, for me, he was definitely up there. It was between him, St. Max, and maybe even Fernandez. For me, I thought Fernandez did really well this season. The only centre-back who was able to stay fit, played far too many games. Really well done for Fernandez. But player of the season was Dubravka. Again, another, you know, when we've got players like him, St. Max, you know, we've got the building blocks to push on and add to that. Yeah, so well done to Dubravka, player of the season. And I guess the best way to end this video will be to ask the question, what's next? You know, and I think we already know the answer to that. Hopefully it's happening while I'm making this video. What we want is the takeover. You know, that's what we need right now. Is it going to happen? Who knows? I mean, you know, a few seasons ago we got relegated. We came back up. We finished 10th. First season back in the Premier League on 44 points. You know, last season we finished 13th with 45 points. This season we finished 13th with 44 points. I mean, we've got pretty much the same points 3 seasons in a row now. And you know, when are we going to take that next step and push on? Unfortunately, without a takeover, I don't know if we will. That's kind of where we are. And that's the frustration as a fan, is when are we going to take that next step? You know, I'm not asking for top 4. You know, I'm asking, can we get 12th next year? Can we get 11th? Can we get 9th? Can we get 8th? You know, can we push forward? Like, I'm not asking for a miracle overnight. I'm just asking us to actually try and progress as a team. You know, and I mentioned it already. We have St. Max. We have Dubravka. We've got a list of good centre-backs. You know, Lascelles is great. I know Shaw didn't finish well, but he had been really good too. Shelvey can create something. Hopefully Joe Linton comes good. I think we need to add a striker. I mean, Dwight Gale finished the season well. I think another striker would help take the pressure off Joe Linton. Maybe that can be Gale next year. Who knows? But as I say, St. Max, Dubravka, Shelvey, we have the building blocks to a great team. We need to add and we need to build. You know, if we're not going to build on the decent base we already have, then we are just going to remain a decent, average-ish side. And we will likely continue to finish 13th until we try and take that next step. But again, as we know, under the current ownership, it's just not happening. So we need a takeover. As I say, hopefully it's happening right now. We don't even have a summer. It's like a month until the next season starts. Even with a takeover, I think it will be tough to really bring players in to try and fully affect the new starting season. And without a takeover, I really can't see us doing too much, to be honest. I think maybe a few more loan deals will be what we will be looking at. So let me know down below what you thought of this season. I asked you at the start, was it a successful season? What do you rate it out of 10? And, you know, tell me as well, what do you think is going to happen next season? Are we going to add to those building blocks? Can we push on and finish 10th? Can we push for a top half finish? Or are we going to finish 13th again? And to be honest, if we don't add and we don't do anything, and then we walk into a new season having not made any changes to the team, would you just take another season in the Premier League? You know? Because that's kind of what we've been asking for the last 3 years. Is it our 4th year of doing that? Again, this is why we need a takeover. This is why we need someone to come in. And again, I don't need billions of pounds invested. I just need a few extra blocks on top of St. Max Dubravka. You know, I need to just start building a little bit more. And let's just take it year by year. But yeah, that's it, guys. As I say, let me know your thoughts on everything down below. Drop a like if you have enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe if you are new. Alright, thank you all for watching as always, and I'll catch you later.